Nobody plays Elementalist. Well, to be more specific, less than like 2% of people do in group content. Since one of my humble viewers wanted me to show Elementalist some love, I'll share with you one of the most underplayed and frankly underrated builds in the game, even though it is pretty viable. This is the Condition Alacrity Tempest, which is one of the only builds that I would recommend for Ellie, considering ArenaNet has publicly stated that the build complexity should not be rewarded by higher damage or utility than other builds, and the Elementalist has a hard time with reliability in group contexts. Typically speaking, if an Elementalist joins your group, they're either going to be god tier top DPS by like 10k, or they're going to be absolute garbage on the floor 90% of the time. However, not with this build. This build is pretty straightforward with its boon production and DPS. Additionally, I would consider this Alacrity support more on the spectrum of a defensive Alacrity support DPS, since it has access to quite a few defensive abilities and healing abilities thanks to the Tempest Elite specialization. Starting with gear, you're going to be running full Viper's gear except for a Grieving backpack, Trapper runes, and Relic of the Fractal. You're going to be running Dagger Warhorn with Smoldering and Bursting Signals, and your food is going to be cilantro oyster soup or cilantro flatbread or birthday cake for all you cake boys out there, with your utility primer being Toxic Maintenance Oil. Your skills are going to be Wash the Pain Away, Glyph of Elemental Power, Signet of Fire, and Glyph of Storms, and your elite skill is going to be Glyph of Elementals. However, if you want a god tier utility skill, you can use Rebound instead of Glyph of Elementals, which is what I would recommend if you're going through group content. The traits are going to be Fire 111, Arcane 113, and Tempest 312, with Fire being chock full of damage modifiers, Arcane giving you boon duration, a revival modifier with Geyser, and some extra damage, and Tempest giving you your Alacrity production on using your overload skills, some auras while overloading, and some bonuses to shout skills, which you don't use typically. Your 3 utility skills can be swapped however you want to keep as many of the ones I recommended as possible, including the elite skill Glyph of Elementals. Glyph of Storms is the one that you will swap first. The general playstyle is to cycle through your F1, F3, and F4 attunement, focusing on getting your overloads off constantly. Your F2 should only be used in dicey situations for its overload, and you can also blast Water Warhorn 5. Using your F1 overload and F4 overload alongside your Fire 4 and Earth 4 are your primary ways to upkeep Alacrity and Might on your group while still doing damage. The rest of your skills should be used to fill the gaps, with Earth 2 and your other fire skills being used as quickly as you can. This build is spammy, and if you spam effectively between rotating between your F1, F3, and F4, using only Warhorn skills in the air attunement, you'll get a decent amount of DPS and maintain boons on your group. Now for some real talk. This build is actually good. I generally like Tempest, however you do need to be about that Ellie life if you want to be useful. It is easy to pick up Ellie, slap on a build, and then proceed to suck eggs in your strike, fractal, or raid group. There's almost no in between. It's either ultra sweaty or absolute garbage. In general, Elementalist has pretty limited CC, especially compared to the other Alac DPS classes. However, it does have a lot of value. Rebound is great, shouts are really useful if you choose to swap them in, and if you learn to play it well, it can be really good, but just know what you're getting into. And that's the build. By the way, those who took part in my poll on my community tab, I didn't forget about your desires, and I am working on both raid wing guides. It's for the current meta, and part 1 of the breakdown of the Guild Wars 2 Trinity, giving you a little bit more information about the way healers and tanks work. I will be following that up with the other 2 parts afterwards. So if you voted or you want to vote, I'll be posting another poll after another couple of videos. So subscribe and let me know what you guys want. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Hit me up in the comments. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.